Alright, so it's time to explain a few things about what's been going on. So, for those who basically viewed my channel back in February, you notice I was basically uploading videos for Jupiter Hell. And then, all of a sudden, it switched over to Disciple Sacred Lands with the Dwarven campaign. And now we're basically getting to the point where I'm back to basically making my videos clarifying what's basically going to be happening in fiction and stuff like that. Now, I'll note by the way, this is sort of abrupt, basically where I jumped into Sacred Lands about finishing the Jupiter Hell playlist over here. I do intend basically to play Jupiter Hell in the future, but well, let's just sort of explain what sort of happened and we'll go from there. So, first things first, back in February, I caught a cold. And that should be very evident because looking at I think the second mission on from the Dwarven campaign here, you probably saw that I basically had sort of a distortion in my voice, and I basically actually mentioned that I've got a cold. And well, that basically happened during a time when I basically had time to basically do a whole lot of recordings all at once, as you can see. So did a couple of recordings basically here on the 16th of February, then a few more on the 17th, a couple more on the 19th, and then a whole lot of them basically on the 20th. Now, what basically happened back in February is that I basically had some time to do recordings, and my voice, I was basically during this time I had a cold, and it's I don't want to basically do any Jupiter Hell recordings while I basically have a cold, so I basically held off on it. And well, I basically had all these videos basically recorded and ready to go. Now, I'm not by the way that I didn't really have any more time basically recordings basically for Jupiter Hell for most parts, so basically with Jupiter Hell here, and yeah, basically it's empty because they're all basically complete at this point. I basically was able to record these basically up to before I basically got the cold and sort of I stopped. Now, I'll note by the way I do intend to sort of continue that playlist in the future, but well, basically to sort of explain another thing that sort of happened right after basically I basically got over my cold basically. I was basically told at that point that my sister who basically lives with me wanted me to move my computer basically out of basically the center of the upstairs house into my bedroom, just for purpose of keeping the noise down, stuff like that. And she didn't basically want me recording until I did so. After I resolved this, I basically didn't really have time doing recordings basically for the rest of February. So after I basically recorded Disciples Sacred Lands for the Dwarven campaign, I basically had to sort of hold off on doing any sort of real recordings until basically this week that I'm basically currently on here, the week before March break here. I'm not basically basically on the 5th and 6th of this month March, I was basically moving my computer over to my bedroom, and it basically took as you probably guess a couple days basically move the computer all the desktop basically under the computer, all the other stuff basically that came with the computer, all the other stuff I was basically doing during that time. And well, I didn't really have any time to do recordings before then, and I've only basically started to do recordings basically after. And well, I basically am intending to go back to Jupiter Hell. I decided basically take a break from playing it and just play the Sacred Lands, so I basically enjoy playing the game quite a bit, and I just want to basically get those series basically out of the way so I don't worry about it in the future. And also basically do some other stuff because I'm not basically I'm going to do videos basically for the Last Sunshine, which is basically a Steam key I basically got through email. There's this free game called Quasimorphous, which is basically essentially inspired by games Doom RL and stuff like that. So where it basically leads us right now, I'm basically currently recording stuff for Disciple Sacred Lands, and once I basically have that basically out of the way, I'll basically start probably doing recordings basically for Jupiter Hell. And the plan is I'm probably gonna basically upload all the videos basically for the Mountain Clans playthrough, and then if basically that's at the point where I'm basically doing some videos basically for Jupiter Hell, basically start uploading them again. But essentially right now I'm basically on a an indefinite hiatus basically for Jupiter Hell, and basically done this playlist. And then there's also other stuff basically to consider as well. So for those who basically looked at the news recently in real life, there's stuff happening which is impacting everything around me, and that stuff too, so to speak. But anyhow, hopefully life gets a little bit better outside and in, and I'll basically get back to recording Jupiter Hell and stuff like that. But until then, for now, take care.